go. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you for coming today. I really appreciate it. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge a couple of my partners that helped me put together classes. And I just wanted to give them a second to just introduce themselves to you guys, make sure you have their contact information. I'm going to start with Shelly and then Chris in the back of the room. Okay.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. I'm Shelly Carr. I am with Lombard Home Warranty, and most of you know in this room that through my home group you have a branded warranty, which is not only an amazing warranty as far as what is in it, but it also is a very classic, beautiful branded warranty. One of the things that I urge you to do as you're talking about generating more business and you're talking about how you can maximize your time is think about your partners. I just had a conversation with one of a luxury top producer this morning, and what we were talking about today is what is going to make your life easier. And taking things like knowledge of the home warranty, how to explain it to your buyers and sellers, how are you going to pick out the plan, ordering it, that kind of thing, take that off of your plate and pass it on to your partner. And I would love the opportunity to be a part of your team. To make it work, we do need to build a relationship so that I understand how you work and you understand how I work. I'm going to give the example of some people are really detailed and they will send me the absolute perfect application. And then there's some people that they just don't work that way, and that's okay as well. But it's learning how we work and how we can function together. So as you're going through your working with your clients, I highly recommend that you don't wait till the end to talk about home warranties, because it can help your business. It can help going through those as you're going through the listings. If you're looking at those houses with older air conditioning units, I'm seeing a lot of those homes that are, those deals are breaking. It's about 40% are not closing. So how can the home warranty help support those so those transactions close? I do know that most of you guys in here use us, but for those of you that don't, I gave you my card, you have the brochure. I would like to sit down with you and talk about the plans, talk about seller's coverage and buyer's coverage, and how I can help you and your clients. Okay?
I have one question.
Yeah.
When's the best time to order? After the inspections are done? If it's one where there's not one in place and you're representing the buyer?
Do they have financing? And can I interject? So this is always a hang up for us when it comes to getting a CD out. So for me, I want you to get those ordered like once you know that the loan is appraised. Right? So once that appraisal's in, get them ordered, because that is always something that I cannot get my CD out in time for.
Yeah, and you can order it right away. If it doesn't close, we just cancel it.
Okay.
It is not a big deal.
We're all second.
Yep. So make it easy on everybody involved. Get it ordered right away. If anything happens, it just goes away. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, and then this is my homie over here. He is like my right-hand guy when it comes to business development, operations. He will have so much good stuff to say today. But this is my title partner, Mr. Chris Medina.
Yes. Homie, not like with homie though, so don't throw me. Obviously we try to team up and partner with the best, which is why I'm happy to be here and fortunate to learn anything from Lizy today. But when it comes to title, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we have all the great escrow officers and everybody else sucks, because that's just not true. Some people are great, some people are not so great. There's balance in the world. Getting your deal done should be a given, right? I'm not going to say, oh, we get all your deals done. You better. That's kind of your job. Our goal is to save you time and save you money and help you earn more business. How we do that is through technology and data. We try to have the latest and greatest, put everything in front of you that can not only get you to that next deal, but then what to say once you're in front of those people and where to find those people, because that's the thing that we're looking for right now, right? You're going up against so many big engines and companies out there. It's how do I even find those people? And then once I find them, what do I say? That's kind of our goal. We want to make sure that not only are you up to date, but you're actually ahead of the curve, as opposed to catching up with all these people that are getting the deals in front of you, right? So that's why we partner with people as smart and as up to date, and actually even more up to date in some very many cases as Lizy. We like to work with smart people, and a few of you I know. For those of you that I don't know, I would love to sit down and chat with you for a few minutes and just see what there is that you're doing now, and again, how we can help save you time, save you money, and how we get more business.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Chris. So a lot of new faces in here, so I'm just gonna quickly introduce myself. So my name is Lizy Hoeffer, and I have been a mortgage loan officer in the Valley since 2008, so about 11 years now. I've been in mortgages for about 17 years, but my prior experience was as in operations, and I've had to rebuild my business not once but twice, right? So when I came from operations into sales, and then about 5 years ago when I got fired from my job. What is so cool about that though, guys, is prior to getting fired from my job, I was what they called a top producer. I funded about 167 units a year, which is kind of like 10 to 13 deals. It's a big deal. But I now close over 800 a year. Okay, and I've done that like leveraging the areas where I'm having a lot of strength, right, and continuing to apply pressure on them. So what I teach you today will be highly impactful. What helps me be the best instructor ever, though, is your participation. So if you're yawning and glossing out on me, I mean, you're gonna suck my energy out, okay? But if you are like, I got a question, I don't understand that, or here's my anecdote, that is gonna make me world's best, the world's best Lizy. Okay, so
I've been yawning all day,
that.
so don't take that personal.
I didn't, if you yawned, that was not. I need that especially because I don't know if you guys are, but I am allergic to Arizona at this time. So I have like this, I have a stuffy nose, I have some Kleenex in my pocket, so I just need that from you guys. So is that cool? Okay, awesome. So this is a business tracker, guys, that I use personally. You probably will not be able to fill it out today, okay? But it's so important that we talk about this exercise and that you know what we need going forward. So that way, like later today or tomorrow when you gather all the data that you need, then you can start implementing this now to move it forward. I promise you, I do this every single quarter, and then in the last 2 weeks of the year, I do a deep dive of the entire year. Okay, that's how you go from 167 to 238 to 412, 529, 634, and in the down market where most of my competitors dropped 30%, I increased 30% to 810. Okay, so I'm only going up. This year we're making traction moves to 1,000 units. Okay, so I promise you that this is like shifting market proof. Okay, most of your competitors have no idea where they get their business. Okay, I'm not going to make you raise your hand, but there's some of you in this room who have no idea how you get your leads in business. You're like, they just come to me, right? And that's cool, but we're real business people here. How many of you want to work till you're done? You're dead. No? Okay. Well, that's what happens when you don't know metrics, right? You do these kinds of things. This is how your business is, right? 1 month you got 7 escrows, and you're like, oh my God, I got to babysit my 7 escrows. And you're like, I got no deals for next month, right? Is that what happens? Right? We are so bananas, and it's because we take our mind off of where we should be putting our best time and energy, okay? So a couple things that I will need for you guys to get so that you can complete this, okay? I need you guys, and if you need this information, I have it on a simple Excel spreadsheet. If you want it, all I need you to do is tell Sammy at the end of the class. But I need you to gather all of this data from last year's production and then year to date. Okay, that's all I really want to look at, right? If you really wanted to be like a super A-star student and you've been in the business for 3 years, like you want to then maybe do like 24 months plus year to date or 36 months year to date. No more than 3 years worth of data because the market has shifted so much, right? And technology has changed and people have changed. So I just think that you typically like 2 years is ideal, right? 36 months is great. But you could get away with this if you just had last year and this year, okay? And here's what I mean, right? So most people have an idea of what their transaction units, closed, and volume is, right? And depending on what they put more weight on, they either know their volume or they know their units, okay? I need you to know both, and I need you to know of your business what is comprised by buyers and sellers, okay? Then I need you to know the purchase price. I need you to know commission, because it's not 3%, right? A lot of you, the average commission in general is 2.5%, but there are many agents who charge transaction fees, and believe it or not, even in a down market, are charging 7%. Okay? So one of the areas that you can impact your bottom line without having to do more business is in this area. Okay? Then it's source of referral. This is always one that gets really tricky here because everybody considers, like, if they went and met at a networking event, they consider it their SOI, which is sphere of influence. They think of, the business banker as their SOI, right? So anything that isn't an open house lead or an internet lead basically falls under this category. And why this is really confusing is because sphere of influence is left for friends and family. Okay, it is not your past client database. It is not networking. It's not your business list. And I don't want you guys to get them confused because they will have different activities that generated the referral. And so when we're looking at your traction activities, we want to get as micro as we possibly can, because if you lump everything into here, are you really solving the needs of your primary and secondary referral sources? Does that make sense? Like literally, this is the one thing when I do this with people individually, we always have to do this at least twice, right, before I really get the actual referral source down. Okay? Then once you get the referral source down, it's very important to find out who your raving fans are. Who are the people that are like screaming from the rooftops that Jermaine Miller is like world's best real estate agent, right? Like this is what happens. Like you have to find out who those people are and what you did that gave them a raving fan experience. One, you want to duplicate it, because ideally your business needs to have 10. So write that down. I need 10 raving fans. 10 raving fans is worth 40 closed deals a year. 40 closed deals a year, right? Does it behoove you to have 10 raving fans? Okay, most people will have 2 to 3, right, when they have a really good business. But even then, that's still like, anywhere between 6 to 15 deals, depending on how good they are, right? That's still legit. So you just want to pay attention to that. And then activity that generated the lead. So here's what happens. You guys will be doing newsletters, Facebook posts, all kinds of things. And for whatever reason, you guys won't know how you communicated. So how you first communicated regarding the lead. So like if they messaged you on Facebook, it's because they noticed things that you were doing on Facebook. So that would be Facebook interaction. If they inbound called you, why did they inbound call you? You have to ask, oh my gosh, what made me top of mind? Well, I've been reading your newsletter. Oh, I've been following you on Instagram. Oh, I've been doing X, Y, Z. You have to qualify your sources. How many of you guys are doing that actively now? Cool. So that's just one tiny change that you can be adding so that you know where you're getting traction, okay? So if you want this thing, just go ahead and make sure that you email or sign up with Sammy at the end of the class. Sammy, will you wave? Okay, so that is Sammy. Okay, so now on to this tracker. So I'm going to explain how we fill it out, and then I want you guys to ask questions, okay? Because I don't know, I'm a nerd, so like this stuff I geek out on. I don't know how well it's going to be received, right? This is like nerdy stuff, okay? So, all right, so I wrote out what's a lagging measure and a leading measure. Are you familiar with those terms? They're called KPIs, key performance indicators. Okay, so a lagging measure, guys, is how many transactions you've closed, how many commissions you've earned, okay? Those are lagging measures. Those are the results of things like prospecting, okay? And so we track those, right, so that we can see what areas we're having traction in, right? But it's just the easiest thing to measure because it's recorded for us. Like you could pull up your own MLS, I could pull up your MTA. I mean, this is information that's just very easily gathered. So you'll want to go ahead and do that. But a lagging in measure shows you how well you did in the past, okay? Even if they're closings today, it's all the activity you did at least like 90 days to 6 months prior, okay? So you should write that down, especially if you didn't know what that was before I mentioned it. Then there's leading measures, right? And this all has to do with leads, right? How many leads are you getting in, right? What's your conversion ratio on the leads, okay? How many of them are coming for your primary, secondary, and supplemental sources of business? Okay, so after you do this activity, you will notice that there are major trends in your business. Okay, and typically businesses, your lead sources that comprise 60% or more of your business are your primary source of business. Okay, anything 20% or greater is a secondary, right? And anything less than that is supplemental. Okay, now I have never seen a business that didn't have at least two, okay, ever. And I've seen hundreds of people's business plans. You either have a primary and a secondary, or you have two primaries, or you have all three, okay? And normally what it'll show, it'll be like sphere of influence, right, or database, then it'll be internet leads, and then one or two open houses, or sign call, or whatever. Those random things that happen, 100% supplemental, okay? But it's really important that you find out where your leads are coming in from, because a lot of times when we don't look at the data, we'll do things like over-invest in areas where there were just supplemental results. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yeah.
Not, I need you to know. Okay, cool. I just can't tell, so. All right. So from here, how many of you guys started off with goals? Okay. I'm not a humongous believer in goals, just so that you know. I believe that we should have a target, right, where we're planning on going. But for me, that's all a goal ever is for me. It's just where I'm trying to aim, like a bullseye. Okay? So you needed to have had that in order to be able to figure out if you have hit a benchmark or not. So did anyone have like a wish number of income that they wanted to make?
Talking about on the start of the year or?
Start of the year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you did.
Yeah.
Did you? How many of you are new to real estate in general? Cool. Do you have an idea of what you want to make in real estate? Okay. So write that down, okay? So those are going to be your like target numbers, okay? So that's going to be your target number, and you'll put that into 2019 goals. What you'll want to write at the very top are your yearly goals, where you wanted your numbers to be, okay? So if I want to close 1,000 loans, right, then at the end of first quarter, I would need to have closed 250 units. Okay, that would be where my benchmark needs to be. Okay, and then whatever the volume needed to be as well. Okay, so you always just want to know these things, right? Because you need to know, do you need to make adjustments or not in your business? So you'll end up putting where your target needs to be, and then it's past Q, which stands for quarter, market performance. Okay, and then it's
That one says 2000.
yes, because you need to figure out.
Where I was at last year compared to this year.
Beautiful. I love this, right? So did you guys get that? So you need to write where you were at last year this time, and then where you are this year this time, and where your benchmark is. Okay? Like you need to know, and then you need to say, did you hit it? Here's what's great about this box, is that there's only room for a Y or an N. Okay? So my favorite thing is you can have reasons or you can have results, but you cannot have both. Okay? So if it's a no, an N, okay, that's okay. We just have to figure out how we're going to change, right? So for me, I'll be honest with you, I almost never hit my Q1 benchmark. Doesn't mean I don't hit my target at the end of the year. It's just that I know that there's certain points of the year when I'm having more traction. Okay? Now, year over year, my quarter one has gotten substantially better because I figure out when to change. One of the big aha moments I had is last year I had a baby. And I normally do my business planning in September, October, but I had my baby in September, so I had to start implementing everything July, August. Okay? That had a humongous benefit to my January and February this year. So what do you think I'm going to do this year?
July.
I'm going to start in July and I'm going to do August, right? And I won't have that break, right? So I will have carried on my momentum a whole lot longer. Okay? That's what's so cool about this, right? So other things that you have to keep in mind, because for me, it's all about the end game. So like how many deals you closed and what your volume is, guys, while it's super cool, it's a vanity metric, right? It just makes us feel cool. What's really important at the end of the day is how profitable we are, right? How much money did we take home? So things I also want you to be aware of is your business revenue, so how much commission came in, and your business expenses. Okay? Business expenses are admin only. Okay? They're separate than your marketing costs. This is always something very confusing for people because they lump everything that is not like a commission into this one thing. But staff costs are different, your marketing costs are different, and then what it takes you to, like your cell phone bill is a business cost. You know, car insurance, insurance, business costs. Do you see what I'm saying, what the difference is? Your assistant is a staff cost. We look at these areas because these are areas that when you figure out like individually, you can make tweaks on. If you lump it all in one, how do you know that you're cutting from the right area? Right? Okay, cool. Does anyone have any questions about this? Awesome. Now, in terms of our leading measures, this can get kind of intense. Also, guys, one thing I didn't mention on here, I always track my savings and my giving. Personal belief, is that the more money you give away, the more money you receive back. Right? It's always an important target for me to give away more money every single year. Just saying, I've done it every year of my life, and every year of my life has been better. So, okay, now on to leads. Alright, so same deal. How many of you guys track leads? Where do you track them?
I do it as part of our team. So,
Well, like in what thing? Just CRM, spreadsheet?
in a spreadsheet primarily.
Okay. How often do you review? I'm picking on you because I know you, but how often do you review it?
A few times a month at least, or at least, I glance at it daily if we update it.
Cool. So here's your target goal. You need at least 25 warm leads per month. For you new people, write that down. That's a super important measure. So 25 warm leads per month. So these are people that spoke to you and they want to purchase a home.
To hit what goal? 25.
So 25, it depends on your conversion, but if you're getting 25 leads a month at, the average close ratio for like a real estate agent, because you have like 90 days to 120 days, but 25 leads will get you like 4 to 5 closed sales.
Okay.
Okay. So keep that in mind, right? I'm talking about what's gonna get you. So like if you're new, right, 5 closed deals is a lot, yes or no?
Yes.
If you're a medium agent, 5 closed deals is a lot, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds like you wanna be big.
Mm-hmm.
How big?
My goal is 48 transactions for myself and additional 30 for my team members.
13? Okay. So then you would tell them, hey, you need to get 12 and 12 because the 25 will work fine for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what these are not, guys, are internet leads. Do you know what I mean? Unless those internet leads answered and said, yep, I'm buying.
So if you meet someone at an open house and you get their contact information and you're sending them properties and you talk to them, is that a warm lead or is it somebody who's actually said, hey, I wanna work with you, put me in your car?
So, okay.
That's a hot lead.
So I would say that well, if you're sending, it depends on how well you converted that, right? So that's what I'm saying. So this depends on your conversion. So if it was me at an open house, I would be getting a commitment to have them work with me if I was going to send them properties. Do you know what I mean? So it depends on how well you qualified them. That's a thing, you know what I mean? Because some of us, we don't feel confident, like closing the loop. Do you know what I mean? The very first time. So I think that you have to then decide, how are they responding to your emails? So they're responding to your
So
emails?
if they respond, then they're a warm lead.
Yeah, so after the initial contact, are they still engaging with you? Right? Did they fill out like your questionnaire? Do you know their time frame? Do you know that kind of stuff? So what makes it hard is your sales cycle, right? So an internet lead guy's sales cycle is a year. And then after a year, get this, it's still like it's almost 4 months. So it's like 119 days, right? From when they said they were ready to when they find a home and close. Right? Isn't that nuts? Right? That is so nuts right now. But it is that way because it's a seller's market, right? And a lot of our buyers are not getting their offers accepted. Have any of you guys felt that? Okay. Right? It used to be 99 days last year, right? And that will shift, it ebbs and flows, but you guys gotta know that. How many of you guys know how long it takes you to close a deal? Okay, it's so important for you to track that because that's why you'll know how many leads you need, right? I'm giving you general metrics, right, for this, but you now know that when you're being a team leader, that that's the thing you're gonna say. Hey, I need every one of you is responsible for getting 12 warm leads. How do you get 12 warm leads? You can say open houses, right? You can do 2 hours of dialing on internet leads every single day, right? That's a real thing. You can call a database of 300 people that know and like you, right? A database, get this, of 300 people. Are you laughing because you don't think you know 300 people?
No.
Why are you laughing?
Way more than that.
Why are you laughing?
The way you said it, I thought I heard you say no one likes you.
Yeah, that's what it sounded, I think.
Oh, you know what? It's the nose thing, guys. It's the nose. I'm sorry, I'm allergic to Arizona right now, but I'm glad you clarified. Yeah, that know and like you. Right? They know who you are and they like you.
That doesn't like you and get some things out of it.
Right? That would suck.
You may not care if they like you if they're gonna buy a house.
Exactly.
Here's my rule of thumb with that though. So a lot of people are database hoarders. They're like, I know the person, I don't really like them, but I'm still gonna keep them in my database because on the off chance they might use me for real estate. And then when I assign you a homework assignment to call your database, the first thing that happens is you pull up to their phone number and you instantaneously go, and you don't want to call them, and then you call them and have world's fakest conversation, and then you're like, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. Right? Excuse my language, but that's kind of what happens.
But the other person, the person on the other line, they can sense that you've been fake.
Oh God, yes. No, I
You
know.
don't get the business done.
But my favorite is when people do. So I have this guy in my office, and he's like, he called all of his database people once a week and go, so did you play or did you work this weekend? I'm like, what is that? Did you, like, are you gonna guilt them for not working over the weekend? And like, what if they had no plans? They're gonna feel pressured by you all. I'm like, no. Horrible script, right? But that's what somebody told him to say one day. So, we'll go over this in a scripting class later, but just know that your database is a gold mine. If you market it well, it can yield up to 8 deals, right? So it's, yeah, what is it? For a 300 people transaction, it was 1 deal per 8 people, right? So in 300, right? So one closed deal in 8 people. Right? If you market it well with a 33 touch, which you should be super familiar with because I'm seeing your Keller Williams tag.
It's
Okay?
actually 36 if you do it right.
Hallelujah! 3 more touches, more referrals, right? Okay, cool. So, couple things, you need to calculate how many leads you got for your primary source, right? Because here's what you need to figure out. If you're having the most traction in one area, but you spent the most money in not the right area, this will show in your leads, okay? And you want to always make sure that everything you do is for lead source number 1, okay? Then lead source number 2, same deal. Supplemental leads, I want you to figure out because sometimes we find out that people have hidden talents, right? So like every time I do an open house, I close a deal, right? That is a hidden talent. You may not like open houses, but guess what? You're gonna do more open houses because you're having traction here and it's not a fluke, okay? So we change it up based on that. Primary closings, secondary closings, supplemental closings, right? These are things that are in escrow, so not have closed, right? So it says closing, right? So these are active people. And then purchases versus listings, active buyers, active sellers. So these are people that are not in escrow yet, but just in your pipeline, right? Does that make sense? In escrow, going to be in escrow, and these are closed, okay? I can't even tell you how many times I meet with people and they include all of their pending escrows into their closed numbers. Okay, I know, but it really happens. Are you surprised? No, right? Okay, so a couple things. If this is the very first time that you've done this, what I want you to ask yourself are what activities generated the most leads, right? Are these the same as last year? What are your supplemental sources of business? Are any of these items sources of business you'd like to focus on, right? So if you just learned about open houses last year, and I'm stating this, right, because it's the easiest thing top of mind, but let's say this was something that you just started doing at the end of last year and you feel like you can get momentum on it, then we'll think about whether or not we include this in our business strategy, okay? So next page, guys, is now we go and we look at, now that we have the data collected and we know what our primary sources of business, we look at our business growth opportunities, okay? So a business growth opportunity has to be primarily for your primary source of business. So we're gonna look and say, okay, where did we have the most traction? What's the source? What's the activity? And then we're gonna figure out how to double down on this, okay? So for me, face-to-face interactions for me convert the highest. Like when I have a face-to-face meeting, a face-to-face conversation, I convert 9 out of 10 times, okay? If I have a phone conversation, I'm like 50 to 60%. It goes down dramatically for me. I have to make twice as many phone calls as I have to see people in person. So what do you think that I did? Schedule more appointments.
Got in front of more people.
Got in front of more people. How?
Classes.
I like
Teaching.
you. I like you. Okay, so that's what I did, right? When I realized that, a couple things I incorporated into my business was a milk route. So write this down if this is something that for you is good. So a milk route is I have 1 day a week where I spend out of the office going to as many real estate offices or as many law offices as possible. I'm going around and I'm setting up a meeting. So here's how you do a milk route successfully. I set a meeting first thing in the morning, right? One at lunchtime and then one around 3 p.m. And my point is to have a meeting, bring value to my referral partner, and then ask them, hey, is there anybody else here that you think might need my contact information, right? And they'll be like, you know, so-and-so was mentioning blah, 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 and would you mind taking me around the office, right? So then you have your friend who is now friends with all of these people going, oh my God, you need to know Lizy Hoeffer, she's world's best loan officer, you need to have her contact information, I've worked with her for years, she's amazing and will improve your business. And then I can go, oh my God, so wonderful to meet you, absolutely, I'd love to follow up with you, do you mind if I get your business card? Are you okay if I call you today to set something up? Right? And that's how that works, right? And so what that also is called a triangle of trust, okay? I came, brought value to my partner then introduced me to their friend. Their friend trusts their other friend, which automatically builds some rapport and trust with us. Not to mention the likelihood that that friend is now going to answer my call is higher, like almost 100%, because they committed to their friend that they love and respect. Does that make sense? Okay, it works almost 100% of the time. It's like a really big deal. So I have a milk route, so I spend the entire day, and my goal on a weekly basis is to see anywhere between 15 to 34 people a week. My best lead weeks are when I can hit 34, but I never go under 15, ever. Okay, even if I'm sick or have terrible allergies, I'm getting my butt out of bed to do at least one class, right? It is so important because it's what?
Primary.
It's my primary activity for generating leads. Okay? So, now the other thing is, I've also realized that because I'm not as strong as I'd like to be on the phone, and now I have, at this point I have a couple thousand clients, past clients, it's gonna be really difficult for me to make all those phone calls, okay? So another thing that I do is, how do I continue to maintain those relationships? How do I market to those people? How do I, because that's really a large source of my business, okay? So anything that does not have like a physical activity, like going to meet people, talk to people, anything that you're putting out online, that's a marketing activity, okay? So like your newsletters, your Facebook posts, Instagram, whatever, it's all marketing, okay? Anyone have questions about that? Okay. And then skills and training. So whenever there is something I want to improve on, so like this year I was like, you know what? We have to have, our closing skills have to improve dramatically because it is such a competitive market. Internet banks are like more prevalent than ever. There's 57,000 real estate agents, guys, in Maricopa County. You have a lot of competition. I think it went to 48, but we started the year.
57 was down from a while ago, right? That's a lot. Though.
No, no, it was 57 was the peak. But I heard yesterday, and I haven't checked this, but at the very beginning of the year when I checked it, it was 57. And then a week ago I was told that it was around 48. So I have no idea. Some of those might just not be active agents. But it doesn't matter because even if it's 40, right, is that a lot of competition?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what the number is. Anything more than like 12 is like too much competition.
I'm with you. Well, there is 8 million people, right? So you gotta have enough people to service that. But here's my thing though, right? In a market where it's highly competitive, what kind of skills do you think that you need to be the best of the best? People skills. How do you improve people skills?
I mean, treating people honestly and
Being around
be
people.
yourself.
How do you improve your people skills?
Building
Practice
relationships.
with people.
Practice with people. So you go to Toastmasters, right? You listen to books on engagement. You read how to win friends and influence people. You go to different kinds of events. For me personally, guys, I have refreshed myself on a whole bunch of scripting classes, right? So I pulled out and dusted out my old Grant Cardone, right? For real, right? Because at this point in time, I gotta be closing, right? I've gotta figure out, like, you know, that this person's an option close and this person's an assumption close, and you know, this is really important stuff because when there's so much more competition, right, I have to be that much freaking better. And I learned about how I'm gonna brand myself, you know, the if this then that kind of statements, because that's the kind of stuff that closes deals, right? So if I have more competition, what kind of skills do you need, especially because I'm doing all of my appointments face to face. That was another thing I changed, right? Instead of doing all my stuff over the phone where I'm a 50% converter, what do you think I also did? Moved all my appointments to be in person, right? Or Zoom call, right? Okay, so let's start with this, okay? So your marketing activities need to be the thing that generates you the most business, okay? So I'm gonna give you a couple of examples. For me, in marketing, I do a ton for my referral partners in both real estate agents and attorneys, okay? I said, okay, well, how can I improve? Because I'm already teaching classes to both of them. I already have a milk route. I have a wow process that I love on people for birthdays, for gifts. Like, you know, how do I improve upon this? Because every single quarter, you have to make it a goal to improve your business strategies by 30%. Write that down. Okay, 30%. Okay? So, I know that me personally, my best conversion is face-to-face. So what thing do you think I added this year to that strategy? I'm already doing a milk route. I'm already teaching in-person classes. I'm already doing gifting. Like, what do you think I'm doing?
Improving your calling skills?
Video.
Video!
Oh, video.
Right? But it's okay, because we're going to talk about that next. So I did video. Okay? And I came up with Money Tip Monday, right? Something that is, you know, significant to my clients, right? And will help my real estate agents have more information to market to their clients, right? Because everyone just needs more stuff to market to their clients, right? So I do a market update. I'm like, how do you save for your down payment? How do you get your credit up, right? Like, this is all valuable stuff that you can take and then train, right? So I came up with a Money Tip Monday. Now, because my secondary source of business is my client database, right? It serves both people, right? And you know what's cool? I also started sending it to my prospective clients and my internet leads, okay? Right? This is how you take it all across all of these things. I'm only adding one thing, right? I'm only adding one big project, but it's having a trickle effect on all sides. Does that make sense? Where I think people get really confused is that they have their primary source of marketing, and then they want to then pick a second project for their secondary, and then a third project to their supplemental, and then all of a sudden they've got too many projects and they don't get anything done. Okay? So pick one that's going to have maximum effort, impact.
Question. And for us, for realtors,
Uh-huh.
I've been doing videos only of the open houses. It's a good idea to do like home improvements or, I don't know, for realtors.
No, it's okay. So for real estate agents, so when you, can I pick on that? Are you okay? You're open to feedback? Okay. So when you guys do those open house videos, I think rarely you're doing them with the idea of how am I solving my client's problem, right? So it's like, check out this beautiful house, and if that client, like somebody who watches that video, had a purpose for watching that, right? You know, like they want to live in that type of house in that area, they would maybe. But let's say you did an open house video and your video was, hey, this person just chose to do hardwood floors versus blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you, this was such a good choice because it now adds X number of dollars to the value of the house, right? People will pay more to get this type of upgrade versus such and such. Oh, by the way, when your house backs up to the freeway, these are some things that you can do to reduce the noise, right? And you can do it before and after, right? These are practical things that solve the needs of your clients, right? And you can, and because you're already accustomed to doing them at homes, instead of showing the house, you need to be saying what kinds of upgrades will help them get them most bang for their buck, right? What kinds of solutions they can have for, like, you know, a whole lot of clutter, or, I mean, painting, or how do you market a property, like those kinds of things. I feel like, well, then all of a sudden everyone's gonna go to your videos, right, and they'll watch them because you're giving them helpful tips, right, on how to sell their house, right? There's also like you could do, people love, like on Instagram, they love seeing pictures of home improvement, so you can go to different places. People love to know, like, you know, where to find deals, off-market properties. I mean, there's so many different things. You could even do money tips. Mine aren't really 100% on mortgages. Like, I've done money tips on, my last one is the ROI on personal development and how it's an underrated source of investment, right? You know, so you can do all kinds of things, but you need to know the top 2 questions and problems of your primary source of client, okay? Does that make sense? Everybody should write that down. Whenever you're talking about marketing, it should solve the needs, right? The top 2 big questions of your primary source of business. So for me, when it comes to clientele, I deal a lot with first-time home buyers, and their biggest needs, guys, are in relation to, you know, how they're gonna save their down payment funds and what the process looks like. Okay, so whenever you see my Instagram, so my Instagram is Lizy Irvine, Lizy with 1 Z, you will see that all of my stuff is targeted towards answering those questions, okay? All of my stuff is targeted towards answering those questions. But again, it hits on all levels, so whatever I'm putting out has to be helpful to real estate agents, has to be helpful to my clients, has to be helpful to anyone who randomly finds me on YouTube, okay? That all makes sense? Did I answer your question?
Yes.
It did? Okay, good. One thing I will tell you that videos in Spanish are just highly needed.
I do it in Spanish, and I took your advice last time. I talked about the neighborhood instead of showing the house around. We had more views than the ones I show the house around.
Oh, girl! Woo! Good job. Okay.
Where did you put them on Facebook? Is that what you're doing, or Instagram?
I'm doing it on
House.
Facebook. I have my YouTube channel, but I don't use my YouTube channel because I don't know how to edit it and all that stuff.
Oh, you're fine. You could just put it on YouTube though.
Um,
So how you put things on, guys, is how you solve their question, right? So can you pay off a mortgage in 7 years? That was one of my video titles, because that's something that people would look up. You know, can I pay my mortgage off in 7 years, right? What's the difference between good debt and bad debt, right? How do you save for your down payment? What does it really cost you to buy a house? Do you know what I mean? So that's how you want it to be. You know, what's it like living in McDowell Mountain Ranch? That's a question that people would ask, right? So neighborhoods is a great thing, local businesses, all that stuff. Really great job. Let me know how it goes when you start doing the home improvement stuff. Okay, I'd love to hear it. Okay, now every single time you do this activity, guys, you're gonna wanna pick your best and highest activity, figure out how to improve on it 30%. You're gonna want to stop something that did not have any ROI. So I was also doing this, I kicked it out. For me, it was a monthly newsletter. I just stopped paying the $150 for it. Okay, I just dumped it. Okay, I never got any deals from it. Right, and then I added the videos, right? So that's how it goes, right? In prospecting activities, right? At this point in time, what I decided to do was calendar my entire year to have more face-to-face opportunities, believe it or not. So my calendar is literally planned out for an entire year of when I can meet with people. And it's centered around that because that was the best way for me to improve my meetings 30%. Okay?
How often do you follow your schedule to a T, or do you find it, is it because of repetition, or do you find it hard still to follow schedule?
It's actually pretty easy to follow in repetition. Where I fall off, truthfully, is making the phone calls. So at the end of my day, I have put my follow-up calls. It's the only thing I'm hit or miss on. I know, but it was never my primary source of business, so I never freak out about it.
Is there sort of a template you use after close of escrow, which, how would you rate I was very proud to help you close. How would you rate my service from 1 to 10 and so on and so? Is there any template after close of escrow we can use? Are you aware of something?
So one thing that I am changing, so I collect about 30% of surveys from closed clients. So one thing that I have decided to do, because that is an area that I really want to focus on, is anybody who didn't give me a survey, I actually put on a drip campaign for I'm sorry. And the first email they get after, it was an honor to serve you after 30 days is, hey, I'm so sorry, I must have dropped the ball somewhere, you never sent me a survey. Can you please give me feedback on my stuff? I'm always looking to grow and improve, like, what did I do wrong? Because you were a valued client of mine and something must have happened. Because you weren't leaving here screaming from the rooftop that you love my team. It's the truth. And we've gotten feedback from it. Today I got the, oh my God, no, you guys were the best. I'm going on right now to give you a survey. Right, you get those two responses, people get busy, but that's one thing. The other thing I've decided to do is invest in a thing called lead pages. And so what that will do is it gives me a survey that I can give people right before they're about to go and sign. So hey, we just received your final approval. We are all about customer service here, and the only way for us to spread the word about our business is if we can give you, if you can give us some testimonials, blah blah blah. And it sends them a link to a survey with 2 questions and a part to go ahead and give us a testimonial about, right? And they fill it out, and then we email it back to them and say, would you be willing to post this on Zillow, Google or Yelp?
And what's this link?
It's lead pay. I'll send it to you, Nadia.
Thank you much.
Yeah, but it's super helpful for me because I found out that they still need me with their fundings. And not to this is just psychological, but they still need me, and chances are I'm going to get a much nicer survey, right? And they're more likely to do it, right? So just know, so I said, hey, as a part of your funding, I'm going to need this, right? I've gotten them accustomed to sending me stuff at this point, So just know I wasn't having as good of results as I wanted to. This again was a change that I made, okay? So, and what we can do too is if you email Sammy and you guys want that information, I'll have that for you guys too with this spreadsheet. Okay, also guys, so with this, so you're always gonna wanna keep something, you're gonna wanna add something, and you're gonna wanna stop every single time, okay? We never wanna just keep adding, because here's what happens. You have useless tools and subscription services that get tagged onto your profit and loss, okay, because you're not paying attention. On average, guys, the average person who is not in real estate has $184 of subscription stuff per year that they pay for, right? The average person had, that was minimum, every person almost, right? And it's probably iTunes, all that stuff. It was $62 per month for the average person, right? That's crazy, right? To me, that's $600 or $700, right? What could you do with that? Right? It's a whole lot of Facebook ads, yes or no, Jermaine? Right? I'm just saying, so you just always want to stop something. I promise. And it'll be scary, and sometimes you feel like you need it, but if you're buying a whole bunch of internet leads and you have a 1% conversion, and you need to spend the money in your database. Best money I ever spent, guys, Sprinkles Cupcakes.
Yeah.
Best money I ever spent. It's the best marketing, it's the best client. I have literal clients who go, hey, I just referred you to so-and-so, and can you please make sure you send them cupcakes? Right? This is how I sold you. Right? It's an all the time thing. Oh, by the way, do I get my cupcakes? I got a lead, you guys. No joke. I closed this guy's deal back in 2016. I guess now he sells auto loans. And he literally told the person to tell me that now I need to add him back onto my birthday list.
You forgot to-
Make sure I get back on her birthday list. Isn't that so crazy? I was like so awesome. So I tell you guys, like, you can do things like cupcakes that you have no idea, right? They don't have like an ROI. I'm not gonna get a lead form back when I send, cupcakes that have dramatic ROI. Okay?
That should be Lizy cupcakes by now. I just need to rename
Just like name them Lizzie's.
it. Just, this is Lizy, here's her shares. You're good.
Alright, so then again, guys, the same questions, right, on this page that were the last ones. Is this the same as last year? How can this be improved? I want you guys to write this down. And then on the very last page, we're gonna identify the 3 improvement projects based on marketing, prospecting, and skills. That's it. What you're gonna do. So if you need to sign up for a training seminar, right, to improve your mindset, you're gonna do that on this. If you're gonna spend money on Facebook ads, you're gonna put this on here and you're gonna dedicate time and resources to getting it done. Okay? Whenever I set up a new plan, guys, it automatically goes on my time block 100%. So when I said I was gonna start doing videos, I immediately time blocked every Friday after 3 p.m. is when I record my videos. Every Friday. Standing on my thing, because if I don't do it, it won't get done. If I say I'm gonna figure it out during my week, let me tell you, it won't get figured out. Okay? So when you add a new project, right, if you're gonna start prospecting, if you're gonna start doing something, you have to put it with a due date. Right? And the thing is, I employed somebody to help me with my video strategy, so that girl is in my office setting up all of her equipment, whether I'm ready or not. That's why all my videos have been from here up, because my desk is always a disaster. Right? But she's just like, okay, we gotta record your video. We gotta record your video, right? Because it was super important. Okay, the same thing with these classes, right? I had to set up a process. Week number 1, it's X. Week number 2, it's X. Week number 3, it's X. Okay? So just be prepared to always time block. Okay? The other thing is reporting. How often are you gonna look at this? Okay? This can't be something that you just heard of today and then you never pick up again. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't do it one time and not. So for me, I look at a lead tracker every single day. Okay? I look at that lead tracker every single day, and my big goal is to reconcile every single lead by the end of the month. Right? I want everything dispositioned as in dead, on hold, credit action plan, right? Qualified, right? Those are my choices. Okay? And dead is honestly a better word for that is lost, right? So they went somewhere else. So you need to do it. I track them all the time, and then I keep different lists for different things. It is super important to have a follow-up process for your leads. This is your future pipeline, and you do not want to get them lost. You don't want to forget about people, and you, because you're new. On hold people are never on hold for as long as they say they're on hold. One of the most difficult lessons I have had to learn multiple times is, oh, call me back in 3 months, really means call me back in 3 weeks. Okay? Yeah. I now call every 30 days. Has anything changed? It's rare that I get someone that tells me to F off, right? That happens, but it's less than the number of people that I have now recaptured. It's so painful to have people have bought without you because they said they were on hold. Okay? Cool. Well, guys, and last and final thing, a lot of the reason why people go up and down in business is because they go really, really hard and burn out. And then they rest for a long time and then have to restart, go really, really hard, and then stop. You need to take 1 day off a week, period. I don't care what day it is. I don't care if it's 2 half days, but you have to take time off to regenerate your brain. It's literally scientifically proven that you cannot work more than 8 hours in 1 day and be productive. Those people who put in 15 hours, and I'm one of them, just realize that the last several hours of your day you're working 30% capacity, which is why it takes you so darn long. Okay? You have to rest, otherwise you will always burn out. And you will never be able to have a successful business. You will always be the kind of person that's up and down. Okay? I have learned this the hard way for many years. So it is 100% something you have to calendarize and have to implement in your business strategy, whether or not that sounds so ridiculous. But it's kind of like that whole thing in the airplane when they're like, put on your own oxygen mask first. That's the same idea. Okay? Awesome.
One thing I like, 8 Lincoln says, give me 6 hours to cut down a tree and I'll take 4 to sharpen my axe.
Yeah,
So it's like,
that's good.
you know, you take the 2 hours of the actual policy. I don't follow it, but I know it.
We
Right.
try to do it, but no, we don't, we get addicted to be working.
Yeah, I would say that anybody who works in real estate and lending is addicted to work, right? But it's okay, 'cause it means we're overachievers and we're awesome. Okay, so can I ask you guys a question? Okay, did you see value from this class? Can I get a show of hands? Yes? Okay. Now, I am not a professional speaker. I am a loan officer who just shares her practices because my goal is that you guys will then trust my team and use us for business. It would mean a lot if you found this class valuable that you would send us your next lead. Okay? So I really appreciate your time. I'll be here afterwards to answer any questions, but we are adjourned 5 minutes early.
Thank you.
Yay. I'm gonna do my next class on scripts,
Okay,
so closing skills.
because I get these books and everything, but, just, where they went to,
YouTube, Grant Cardone, 10X, yeah.
Buy the Closer Survival Guide book from Grant Cardone, and you can read 150 closing scripts for it. It's awesome.
which book?
Grant Cardone Closing Survival Guide.
Okay.
Closer Survival Guide.
I have not, honestly,
You haven't read it?
I have not read it, but
That
I,
is
It's in my phone.
it is the best book for closing.
yeah. Well, we're gonna just do like a round robin script class. I think it'll be really fun. Yes.
Closing Survival.
I don't, but I can make some.
Yeah, that was just fun. Yeah.
Yes, the hard copy is great because you can review, and then the audible is good because it's very
Te mando un texto con la información.
our market